I call Jonah Naylor.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I've got to say that actually I think Materia Ture perhaps has got some things right, is actually trying to look out for the rights of other people. I've got no issue at all when people are looking out for the rights of others and making sure that people get a fair go. However, Mr Speaker, I've got to say that this bill is not the right way to go about it. Mr Speaker, we always want people to have a fair go. We want people and recognise that people have rights. But I'll tell you something that is not talked about enough around New Zealand is actually about responsibilities also, Mr Speaker. I just want to start my contribution by reading you an excerpt from an email that I received in the last week or so. And this is from a local landlord who said, "We want you to view a house. I haven't had a chance to see the house, left for the landlords to repair and clean up. The tenants have finally left the house, owing 7 weeks' rent. We need to repair damaged kitchen cabinets, oven, dishwasher, light fittings, handrails, broken windows, carpets and sailcloth. We need to dispose of many bags of rubbish and boxes of clothing left lying on the deck and out on the lawn. Over the last 3 months, we've tried to get the tenants out of our house, but as landlords we have no power because of the legal requirements under the Residential Tenancy Act." Mr Speaker, there are two sides of a coin, and the particular things that this bill is talking about actually go in no way really to help any of the people that are being talked about. Because, Mr Speaker, we talk for a start about the default setting being 3 years for an agreement. Actually, most landlords I know would love to sign somebody up for 3 years. That'd be great. That would give them 3 years certainty of rent. Actually, the people I've spoken to usually have trouble finding tenants who want to sign up for 3 years. But actually the default doesn't need to be there at all, because there is the provision already for a landlord and a tenant by mutual agreement to set a term, either as a periodic term or for 12 months or 18 months or 2 years or 3 years or 10 years if they want to. What is even the benefit of a default? So therefore, Mr Speaker, sounds nice, sounds rosy, but actually does not deliver anything in particular. Mr Speaker, there's talk about in this bill of trying to abolish letting fees. Well, actually, it's actually, you could do that. There's nothing wrong with it necessarily per se, except that, of course, a landlord's going to recoup the cost through the rent anyway. Landlords probably will not pay for the letting costs, and so actually, Mr Speaker, people will have choices around that. It's only then going to hide the cost of the letting fees inside the rent, actually achieve nothing other than, of course, the promoters of this bill to make themselves feel good that they can look like they've saved some people some money when they're actually still going to pay it anyway through their rent. Mr Speaker, landlords are generally, often, they're good people. Mr Speaker, there are some rogue landlords out there, and we do need to make sure that there are protections in place for tenants. But Mr Speaker, we can't just put all of the expectations on landlords to carry all of the risk all of the time. And from time to time, somebody will need to sell their property. And if they have to, if we're going to do away with the 42 days notice, at the point of sale, I might add, it's only at the point that the sale goes unconditional that somebody's going to get 42 days notice. Mr Speaker, is ample time, it's an appropriate time. Generally, landlords aren't buying and selling all of the time. Mr Speaker, Mr Twyford talked about the inappropriateness or the insecurity that people have because of the 90-day a warning that somebody can give, that they have this hanging over their head that they may be booted out of their house at any time. Well, Mr Speaker, the landlords I speak to don't want high turnover in their rental properties. They want good tenants who will pay their rent, good tenants who will look after the property like it is their own. And if you are looking after a property, if you are paying your rent, the chances of your landlord booting you out for no good reason at a 90-day notice is very, very low. Mr Speaker, again, as I say, I applaud attempts by people to actually make people's lives better. But, Mr Speaker, as I said, this bill will not do that. This bill is misguided. This bill will not deliver any benefits to New Zealand. And so, therefore, Mr Speaker, I cannot support it.